Hello, everyone. My name is Micah. My wife, Michelle, and I live in South Central Pennsylvania. And a few years ago, we felt like God was prompting us to share some parts of our testimony from over the years. We weren't sure what capacity to share that in, and this idea of just doing some videos and putting them on some sort of social media kept coming to our minds. For those of you that know me, know that I'm not real great with technology, so this is all brand new to us. But we felt like, again, with God kept prompting us, so we should probably just do it. So there's about 3 or 4 videos I think that we'd like to do. This first one that we're going to do now is in regards to our journey getting started into foster care. We started fostering, I think it was 2005 or 2006, somewhere in that range. And how we got started is kind of an interesting story. It's the first time in my life personally that I felt like God spoke directly to me in regards to a decision that I was trying to make. So we had been married for a few years, and we were blessed with a beautiful little girl in 2005, and she was great. Love her to pieces. But she was not an easy baby. We were blessed that Michelle was able to stay home, and I would get home from work a lot of days, and Michelle would be overwhelmed. She did not sleep a lot as a baby, and it overwhelmed us. And so we were kind of struggling with just one, and she was maybe 6 months old, and Michelle came to me and brought up this idea that she wanted to do foster care. And initially my answer was, no, I don't want to do that. And she brought it up a couple months later, and I said no again. And she said, would you at least pray about it? And I said, yes, I would pray about it. And so at the time I was working in a nursing home down in Frederick, Maryland. And so I had about an hour-long drive to work every morning and every evening. And the little car that we had at the time, the radio didn't work. The dash lights didn't work. The headlights worked most of the time. And the air conditioning didn't work. But it took me there and brought me back. But needless to say, there was an hour each way to work and home in pretty much complete silence. And so the next morning, after I told her I'd pray about this, the next morning or the morning after, I was driving to work, and I remembered, I promised Michelle I'd pray about this foster care thing. So I was driving along, and I prayed probably the most heartless prayer I've ever prayed in my life. I literally just said, God, please help me to know if we're supposed to do this foster care thing or not. Amen. And literally that's all I said, with that much emotion behind it. Just fully anticipating him to say no. And I could tell Michelle I prayed about it, and we could move on from this. And as I was just continuing to drive, I just was having like this mental argument with God, like why this wasn't a terrible idea, why we had no business doing this. And I was like, Michelle's overwhelmed with one child. How are we going to handle even more? And he just spoke. I know it was him. It spoke directly to my spirit. And he just said, like kind of out of the air, like he just said, am I not big enough to help your wife? And I was like, oh man. I was like, that's not the answer I wanted. And I was like, I knew just in my spirit that God had just spoken to me and that we were supposed to do this. And so I got to work, called Michelle, told her what had happened in the car. And I got home later that day, and she informed me that we were already signed up for classes to start in just a few weeks from that time. And so what I didn't know was all this time that she was asking me about this, She had already done all the legwork. She had already contacted the agency. She already had everything lined up. She was just waiting on God to tell me yes or no. And so within a couple weeks, we were in classes, and then we have some other parts of our testimony come from some of our placements that we had over the years. But if you watch this clear to the end, I'm truly humbled that you're watching it. Hopefully, if there's someone out there that God will use this to bless or help in any way, that'd be great. So we will see you next time.